New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
This is Mary Burger, and this is Diva Talk. Welcome to the show. We are trying this in a second round because our first round had technical glitches, so bear with us. So today is Thursday, May 11th, 2017, and I have a whole lot of stuff to share with you tonight. So one of the first things I wanted to share with you is an experiment I have been doing this week, and that experiment has to do with gratitude. And there's a lot of really heavy stuff going on in the world right now. And I just wanted to see if I could kind of, exist and rise above it, exist in gratitude, exist in joy, and kind of rise above everything that's going on. And not necessarily ignore it, because I kind of need to know what's going on, but I don't want to get myself deeply mired in it. So I've done this experiment where I wake up in the morning, and before I even get out of bed, I declare to the universe that something awesomely amazing is going to happen to me today. And it's worked every day. But this morning, what I wanted to share with you was when I went out on my first on-site appointment, I walked into my client's office, and I'm not going to share the screen with you, but her MacBook was sitting on the counter, and she had her screensaver on, and it was a black background with the words, "Something amazing is about to happen." I almost died. I saw that screen and I thought, oh my God, something amazing just happened. So it really works. If you try and kind of rise above the dark stuff that's going on right now and just exist in joy and gratitude, you will feel a whole lot better, and that energy will flow out to everybody you encounter. So try it. It's really kind of cool. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight was the fact that on June 1st of 2016, I officially launched my Diva Care product. And Diva Care is automated maintenance for your computer. And basically the way it works is we put a small piece of software on your computer, and we provide you with your antivirus software, your anti-malware software. We do full computer cleanups every week. We update your Windows software. We update third-party software. And we basically handle the general overall maintenance of your computer. And that includes phone calls. If you call us and you have a problem or a question about your computer, it's all included in the monthly fee. So, so I wanted to give you some statistics of what's happened on the Diva Care subscribers, their computers, in the past year. So in terms of viruses and malware, we have detected and cleaned up 49 viruses in the past year. However, viruses are not all that common these days. Malware is what's really common. So even though 49 seems like a low number, it's really kind of high in terms of viruses. Malware, we have cleaned up 10,205 pieces of malware off of our Diva Care subscriber computers. That's awesome. That's major. Event alerts that have happened on our Diva Care computers, 95 in the past year, where I've gotten a text message saying, hey, there's something going on with this computer. You might want to check it out. So 95 of those in the past year. We have done 4,958 scans for Windows patches, and we have done 2,362 scans for third-party updates. And whatever the scans have found in terms of updates, we have applied those to the computers. We have done tune-ups every week where it's possible. We defrag the hard drives. And we basically keep an eye on the overall health of the computer. The number one thing that you can do to keep your computer healthy and malware free is to keep all of your software up to date. And Diva Care does a great job of that. The computers in the Diva Care portal, the mix of computers in terms of the operating system, 47% of our computers are on Windows 10, 11% are on Windows 8.1, no Windows 8 computers. Windows 7 is 36%. The Mac platform, we are talking 2%. And then in terms of servers between 2008 and 2012, 4% of the computers are on that platform. So that's pretty awesome. So our anniversary is coming up on June 1st, and we are expanding Diva Care. We will be releasing 2 new tiers for Diva Care, as well as backup services for Diva Care. Those of you who subscribe to Diva Care will be getting special pricing for the backup of your data. And I'm really, really excited to be able to bring that to you. So launch is official on June 1st. So I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about the typical day, week, 2 weeks of ComputerDiva. What do I do with my time during the day besides maintaining Diva Care computers? I do a lot of other things. Since the Diva Care software kind of takes care of most of the maintenance tasks, I kind of keep my eye on the portal and keep my eye on alerts, but then I go off and do my break fix work. So I kept a log for the past 2 weeks of all the various types of jobs I've gotten, and I'm hoping that by talking about them, people who are listening can say, oh, hey, I've had that problem too. Now I know how to fix it. So I'm just going to start with the beginning of the list, and we will go through them. And I'm hoping this will be beneficial to you. So one of the first jobs I tackled in the past 2 weeks was a client who they receive a lot of voicemails electronically, and they receive all their faxes electronically. And all of a sudden, they could not open either one of those files. The system they just wouldn't open when they double click. So they couldn't listen to their voicemail, and they couldn't read their faxes. It was pretty critical for this client to get this fixed. So I knew instantly what the issue was. And on your computer, Windows computers, and on Macs as well, there is a program that tracks the file type associations. And basically that means the software that is used to open various types of files. And you can go into that software and you could say, okay, for a PDF file, this is the piece of software I want to use every time I double click on a PDF file. Or in the case of her voicemails, probably an MP3 file, this is the actual piece of software we want to use whenever she opens a voicemail file. Well, those had gone all wonky. I don't know what happened. So it was a quick 5-minute fix. I went in, I reset the file associations, and everything started to work. So that was kind of cool. So then I had another client who, it was a residential client, and she was having problems getting to web pages. Just about every web page she went to, she got the dreaded 404 error, this page cannot be displayed. And that was actually a really easy fix as well. I had her reboot her CenturyLink modem and then reboot her computer. And once that was done, everything was working just fine. So so that was really kind of cool. Usually, so if you're going to have internet issues, the 2 things that I would suggest you do is, number 1, shut down your computer. And if you have a separation between your modem and your wireless router, if you have a separate modem and a wireless router, I suggest you shut them both down. And the first thing you're going to do is plug your modem back in. And you're going to give it about 2 to 3 minutes for it to boot up fully. And for those of you who have the new Xfinity modems, you know, the really tall black ones, you want to give that a good 5 minutes to boot up. You want all the lights to be flashing, either or solid or flashing. The Wi-Fi lights will be flashing. Everything else should be solid. Wait for that state to happen to the modem. Then plug your Wi-Fi back in. That's if you have a separate Wi-Fi box. If you don't have a separate Wi-Fi box, then go ahead and turn your computer back on. But that is the progression of what you need to be doing. So the other thing I also did with her modem was I changed the channel that was broadcasting from auto to channel 11. Very few people know that you can change your broadcast channel, and channel 11 is not used very frequently unless you actually know how to go in there and change it. So I changed it to channel 11. Now this is a condo complex. So chances are she has a lot of neighbors on CenturyLink, and they were all probably broadcasting off of the same channel. So she's now on channel 11, and she's working just fine. Okay, issue number 3. Okay, so I have a commercial client, a small commercial client with 4 computers, and they like to connect. They have 1 computer at home and 3 computers in the shop. They like to connect to these computers in the shop in the afternoons when they're at home. They start their day very early, like 2:30 in the morning, and they're home by noon. So they use LogMeIn software to achieve that. Well, LogMeIn, as a lot of people know, has drastically increased their prices over the past couple of years. I used to use LogMeIn to remote into my clients' computers, and 2 years ago, I switched to a software product called Splashtop because LogMeIn had quadrupled my annual fees, and it was just outrageous. So I suggested to this client, when their renewal came up, it was going to be $599 for the year. I suggested that we switch them to Splashtop as well. So for $60, we switched them to Splashtop, and we got them up and running, and it's working beautifully for them. And we actually called LogMeIn, and we had them cancel the account, just so that there were no chances being taken of their credit card being charged. Oh, we also requested that their credit card information be deleted from their account. So, and we have all that in writing. I can't tell you how many software companies I deal with where I have to call them and cancel a service, and they tell me that the service is being canceled. They follow it up with an email, and then when it's time for the credit card to be charged, I'm finding that the credit card gets charged and they actually didn't cancel the service. I had that happen to me with, I had canceled a client's Mozy Pro account about 2 weeks ago. And this past Monday, their credit card was charged for the next month's worth of services. So it's kind of a pain to have to call them back and go through the process of saying, hey, we canceled, now you have to refund the credit card. And so I try and take that extra step when I cancel somebody's online account and say, let's remove the credit card information from the account. So let's see, the next job I worked on, I have a client down in California who they're a small school, and they bought a new printer. They replaced their old printer with a new one. And we had to set up the printer on both of their computers and set up the scanning services. So that was really an awesome job. It's one of those cool things where I could sit in my office and I can log into their computers, and all they have to do is plug in the printer and maybe plug in the network cable, get it hooked up to the network, and then I can handle everything else remotely. So that was a really, really smooth job. Okay, so the next job, and I get these frequently. I get these several times a week, and I probably talk about this in every single Diva Talk show that I do. And that is the dreaded pop-up screen claiming that you have a virus and to call this particular 800 number to get it all fixed. So yeah, I had a client who actually called the 800 number, and she had the foresight not to let them into her system. So she kind of got the idea that it was a little bit suspicious. In fact, remember on the last show that I was going to try and call one of these numbers and actually string them along and see what they would do. I was going to let them into a spare computer I had, and I was going to try and record the whole process so everybody could see what actually happens. That didn't work, and I haven't had time to get back to it. But anyway, I did a quick cleanup on this client's computer just to make sure that there was nothing suspicious on the computer, and turned out she was virus free. We got her all fixed up, 1 hour's worth of work, and she was on her way and she was happy. Let's see, the next job, it had to do with a MacBook Pro. No, not a MacBook Pro, it was a Mac Mini, one of the little tiny square Macs. that you could hook up a monitor to. So she has this Mac Mini. She also has VMware running on the Mac so that she can also run Windows on the Mac. She she uses QuickBooks a lot and Quicken. Sorry, when I talk a lot, my throat will get scratchy and I'll need water. So, and those, the Mac version of those are not all that great. So we put VMware on there a couple of years ago. We put Windows 7 on there, and she's running happy in the Windows side. Well, VMware wanted to do an update, and it wasn't playing nice, and it kind of took away her printing services, and so we had to fix that. I actually had to get VMware on the phone, and turned out there was this brand new little tiny service in the latest version that wasn't turning on and staying on. So it was a thin print service. So we got that resolved for her. And we have another issue that we're still dealing with on her RoboForm software, which is password management. Have not fixed that yet. So we will revisit that. Then one of the other jobs I did last week, I had a client that I have been dealing with her for about 4 years now, at least 4 years, have never met her in person. And I've got a lot of clients like that. So I had the honor of being able to actually go to her home last week and meet her because she had bought a brand new computer. So it just made sense for me to go down there and hook up the new computer, migrate the data from the old to the new, and get everything set up. And it was so much fun. I actually adored going down there and meeting her in person. It's one thing to, have a voice to talk to whenever she calls, and I remote into her computer. I see her face on Facebook, but it was awesome to actually meet her. So the interesting thing about that job, it was about a 3 to 4 hour job. She had about 110 gigabytes of music that we had to transfer over. And I used a special backup piece of software called Fabs Backup Pro. And it's extremely fast. You can specify exactly which directories you want to transfer, user profiles, user settings, all that stuff transfers. So it backs it up really, really quick, and then it will restore it pretty fast. 110 gigabytes of music, it backed it up pretty fast, but the restore process took a couple of hours. So we kind of just let that run overnight. I wasn't going to sit there and watch that. In fact, we kind of wrapped up everything on that project yesterday or the day before in terms of the music. And then the next job I had after that one, I think it was the day after that one, was actually a commercial client, and they're up in Woodland, Washington. And so I went up there. I usually go on site for them, and they have me out about 3 times a year. They have a Windows home server. They are the only people I've ever known to have a Windows home server. And it was designed way back in the day for people in their home environment to set up a little server for all their computers to log into, and then it stores the data from all the computers, and it actually backs up all the computers. It's actually really kind of slick. So I had to go up there. We had to add a new user to the server. They had a backup issue, which I had to fix, and we had some email issues, which we had to fix. And so all of that was really, really easy. So the next job I had was a gentleman, residential client, and I've been dealing with him for a couple of years, and his laptop just would not boot. So I kind of had to just physically go out there. He's about 3 miles from me. And I went out there, I think last Thursday afternoon. And I actually did get the laptop to boot. But then we had that conversation about the laptop. And I asked him how old it was. And he pulled out all the paperwork. And he said, it's about 7 years old. And I said, okay, well, this could happen again. And it's probably time to replace that laptop. So my recommendations for you in terms of laptops and desktops If it's a residential environment, I would stretch a laptop to 5 years, and I might stretch a desktop 6 or 7 years, maybe. Um, if you are in a business environment, laptops, desktops, everything, I suggest every 3 years. Very few people do that. I like to try and get my clients set up on a rotating basis where they replace 25% of their technology every year. If you're in a business environment, you just have to plan and budget for it. 25%, no, 33%, I'm sorry, 33% of your technology every year needs to be turned over. If you stretch it out beyond that, the age of the computers, because they're being worked on 8 hours a day, they will wear out faster. And beyond that 3, possibly 4 year mark, you're going to spend a lot of time in maintenance on those computers, and then you have lost productivity of your staff. So it just doesn't make sense to go through all that and lose your productivity and spend time maintaining these computers when for $800 for a computer, you could put a new one in there and everybody's happy, everything's functioning normally. So those are my guidelines. 3 years for business computers, 5 years for a residential laptop, 5 to 7 for a residential desktop. So that was that. I have a lot of really interesting jobs and a lot of really simple jobs, and those I love. After I've spent a lot of time working on the really technical issues that require a lot of brain power, it's really kind of fun to tackle some of these jobs. So one of them was a client of mine, her Facebook account got spoofed. So we simply had to change her Facebook password. And that was a quick remote into the computer, change the Facebook password, and we're good to go. Let's see. Oh, I have a client who, it's actually a doctor's office, and they have technology in place that integrates with their CRM software. And basically what it does is it reads all the appointments in the CRM software, and then it sends out text message reminders to the patients. Well, we had done some work on the server recently and moved that software to the new server, and it was not functioning properly. So we actually had to go in and fix that. So that was really kind of interesting. So here's a job where I can give you some really good tips and information, and it has to do with backup. So the next job I had is a Diva Care subscriber, and she had contacted me and said she had noticed that it looked like her backup drive was getting full. Actually, no, she did not contact me. I contacted her because I ran her Diva Care report, and it indicated her backup drive was getting up there in the percentage of it being full. So I hopped onto her computer and took a look at the backup drive, and we're using the Windows 10 file history to back up her computer. And the file history was set to keep files indefinitely. So on the Windows 10 computer, if you want to know how to do this, you have this search bar at the bottom. It's actually where you can, Cortana lives. Cortana is the voice activated assistant. So if you click in there, you can type, and that's how I find everything on Windows 10 computers. I don't bother going through menus. I just put my cursor in the Cortana field, the search field, and I type what I'm looking for. So I clicked in the search field, I typed file history, I brought up the file history settings, and I went in there, and there are, if I remember correctly, it's advanced settings, and you can specify how long file history will keep files. And I don't remember what we actually put in there, but it had a little utility to clean out old data. And I actually told it, just keep the latest copy of every file that's been backed up. And that cleared out a ton of data on her backup drive. And then I think, maybe I asked it to keep maybe 3 to 5 copies of each file. So historical versions of files. Now, a lot of those files are not going to change. Music files, photo files, they're not going to change. It's your Word documents, your Excel documents. Those types of documents are going to change over time. So that's how you manage your file history on Windows 10. So I told her we probably needed to, once every 6 months, just double check on her backup drive. I put a note in my software for 6 months from now to give her a call, and we'll just check it. And if it needs to be cleared, we'll clear it. Just all part of the service of the Diva Care subscription. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So the next job I had, exact same thing. This was actually with a commercial client. They're not a Diva Care client, so I wasn't able to proactively monitor that and give her a call. She actually called me and said she had gotten a notice that her backup drive was full. Same exact thing. We went through the same process, cleaned out all the old files, and made a whole lot more new room for files. She also has the Mozy online backup service. So I checked her data storage there to make sure she had plenty of capacity, and everything there was fine. Let's see. So I have a note here with a particular client. Her computer would not turn on. I fixed that and did a full cleanup. Don't quite remember that job, but it's a typical job. Computers won't turn on. I am able to get them up and running again, and usually we'll do a hardware diagnostic to make sure that there's nothing physically wrong with the computer, and then I'll do a full cleanup, and the client is happy, I'm happy. The next one, I have a client, and we're still dealing with this issue. She moved from Earthlink. It might as well have been dial-up service. It was so slow. We switched her to Comcast a couple of months ago, and we purchased a modem from Amazon. And Comcast came out to install the service and install the modem. I wasn't on site when all of this took place. And Comcast, I don't know what happened, but they ended up putting in one of their modems, and the modem we purchased disappeared. So we didn't know that until probably a couple of months after the fact, when my client was having problems with her phone service. So she called Comcast, and big long story. Comcast said, well, you're renting a modem from us. And so I got back involved. And so we had an investigation done, trying to trace down her modem. What the bottom line gist of what's going to happen is Comcast is replacing her modem with an exact same model that we purchased. And they are coming out next week to install that modem and get it installed the way we originally wanted everything to work. So that was, yeah, anyway, I was really upset about that because I hate to say there was some sort of fraud involved, but, the modem disappeared. Whatever happened to it, I don't know, but we are making it right. My poor client was just kind of distraught over the whole thing. Let's see. My next job. So this one was a really interesting one, and we really don't have it resolved yet. But my client has a Gmail account, and he emails with groups. And the groups could be 10 people, they could be 20 people, they could be 25 people, just various groups that he's involved in doing volunteer work. And he discovered that with this Gmail account, that if he sent more than an email to more than 11 recipients, it would bounce back, and it wasn't being delivered. And it's sporadic. It's not like it was happening all the time. And of course, we set up the appointment. I remote into his computer, and we did a test. We sent a test email to one of his groups, went just fine. So we pulled up one of the emails that bounced when we first started talking about this, and we actually opened a case with Google. And you can actually do that. There are places where you can go to open those cases. So we are waiting to hear back from them to find out what to do as our next step. We actually sent them the header of the email that failed. And the header is the technical piece that you don't see, but it's all the little delivery routes, all the little, things that happen from the time you click on send until the time it goes out into the internet and gets rejected by the recipient's server. It keeps a log. There is a log for every single piece of email you send out. So we grabbed that header, sent it into Google as part of our maintenance request, and we're just waiting to see what happens. Oh, okay, so this is really interesting. My client, who I finally got to meet last week, and her 110 gigabytes of music, on the new computer, we went into iTunes after all the music was transferred over. We double clicked on a song and we got the message, the file could not be found. And I've seen that before. It's been a long time since I've dealt with that. But I reached down into the recesses of my memory and realized that that's right. We have to go into our iTunes preferences. So it's iTunes preferences, and I think there's a tab way over on the right-hand side for advanced. And in that advanced screen, you can actually specify the path for where your music is. Well, the path that was in there was the path on the old computer. So all we simply had to do is change the path to what it was for the new computer. And all of a sudden, her 25,000 songs could now be seen and played. So that was a really easy fix. That was kind of fun. So if you ever have that issue when you're moving from an old computer to a new, that's all you have to do to fix it. This next one was fun. I have a lot of fun jobs. I have a client who is writing a book, and she just finished the book. And and she was writing the book in open office. So she had some simple formatting questions for me. And she's actually a Diva Care subscriber as well. So I spent a half hour, I connected into her computer, and we basically needed to set the margins. I needed to show her how to set her 1-inch margins. And the way she's written the book is she's taken each chapter and it's got its own separate file, which is really kind of a cool way to do it. Because if you've ever dealt with huge documents and trying to format them as you go along, it could be a nightmare. And I don't know a whole lot about book publishing, but it seems to make sense to me that you don't do a whole lot of formatting while you're writing. You wait until the end. That way you're not spending your creative writing time dealing with formatting issues. Let your creativity flow while you're doing the writing process, and then go back and do the technical stuff after the fact. So we got her all set. I showed her what she needed to do to format each chapter. I showed her how to copy and paste 2 chapters into an email. One of the publishers that she was sending it off to actually required that the 2 chapters not be an attachment in case of a virus, because viruses can be transmitted through attachments. So everything had to go into the body of the email. So I showed her how to copy and paste 2 different chapters into the email, and we talked about, okay, when she gets ready to put all of this into one document, how to copy and paste each chapter into one document. So that was kind of a fun project. Kind of took me way back to my clerical days when I was first starting my career, and I did a lot of that type of work. Let's see. Oh, I have a commercial client. They're a fairly large commercial client. Started off, one of my very first customers when I started my business, it's been 9 years ago. Just a couple of desktops, and they've now evolved into, they're now probably up to 35. And they just needed to add 4 new Office 365 accounts. Easy job, kind of fun stuff for me. Then I had, I'm kind of, what are we doing for time here? Then I had a job where I have a winery client, and they're awesome people. And we have been going through an email project for them, and we needed to wrap it up with devices, iPhones and iPads. So they said, and they're Diva Care clients as well, they said, why don't you come out to the winery and we'll get all that resolved. We'll make sure everything's working properly. And we'll, you know, we'll just wrap that up. So in the meantime, the night before I was to go out there, they called me and said, help, one of our computers crashed. It's a good thing you're coming out, and we need to get that resolved. So I actually ended up doing that. We had to buy a new computer. We installed the new computer. I actually took the hard drive out of the old computer and hooked it up to the new one, and we just did a transfer of the data that way. And they had 2 different backup types, and I made sure those were set up. We installed their Office 365. We got all of their email accounts running on the computer. I fixed their iPhones. I fixed their iPads. Then we had a glass of wine. It was really kind of cool. So that was a fun job. Even though it was a very long day, we got it all up and running. And then, so that kind of brings us to today. I dealt with a client whose printer would not print, and it was on a Mac Mini as well. Simple job. I just downloaded the software again from the HP website, went through the install, and because there were several printers listed in the printer dialog box, so I thought, let's clean it all out, start from scratch, and downloaded the software, reinstalled the printer drivers, and everything is working beautifully. And then the last job I had today, again, really fun clients of mine. They had an iPhone that belonged to an employee, and he's no longer with the company, so I had to reset that iPhone back to factory defaults. So we got that done. I cleaned up one of their Windows laptops. I programmed a couple of fax machines with some fax numbers, and then I did a tour of their new wine cellar that's under construction, which is really kind of awesome. So that kind of gives you a flavor of what it is that I do with my time. So I try and spend Monday, Tuesday, and Friday completely in my office, although that's not going to happen tomorrow. I will be out all afternoon. But I try and spend Monday, Tuesday, and Friday in the office, and work on remote fixes, and manage the Diva Care portal. And Wednesday and Thursday, I'm typically out with clients. Wednesdays, I'm in Oregon. Thursdays, I'm in Vancouver. So that was kind of a snapshot of 2 weeks in the life of ComputerDiva. And excuse me, amongst all of that work that I just described to you, I'm also working on a lot of different projects. I'm working on bringing the different Diva Care tiers into fruition for my June 1st unveiling, and the Diva backup. So dealing with contracts and websites and putting all the pieces together. So I'm really, really busy, but I love what I'm doing. So there you have it. There's a flavor of what it is that I do. A lot of different types of jobs. It keeps me on my toes, and it keeps my brain cells kind of snapping. So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching this show. It is produced by a company called New 72 Media that is owned by 3 awesome women, Kelly Lair, Mary Holden, and Cinda Lonsway. They are the 3 owners, and I feel very fortunate that they have given me the opportunity to be able to put this show together and broadcast it to you every other Thursday night. So with that said, I will be back live with you 2 weeks from tonight. Hopefully we won't have a glitch like we did before. 7 o'clock is when we hit the airwaves. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Good night.